You're listening to Abounding in Hope Talks, and I'm your host, Trisha Soderstrom. I'm a Christian homeschool mom who spent over 10 years healing from chronic Lyme disease and helping my family heal from chronic Lyme disease. Join me as I share from my experience and offer faith-based hope and practical tips for living out every day with hope as you trust in the Lord with your health, marriage, family, and homeschool. I know you'll be encouraged, so grab a cup of coffee or herbal tea and let's get started. Are you feeling discouraged and frustrated by the choice that you have to make regarding your children's education for the fall? Many states are not opening school until January, and that leaves parents trying to figure out what they're going to do. Now, if you're at all interested in homeschooling, I have 20 years of experience that I would like to share with you. I developed a new e-course called How to Homeschool, and I will answer your questions and walk you through the step-by-step process for how to get started. If you're interested, check out the show notes for the link. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today for Abounding in Hope Talks. Today, I want to talk to you about how to be a great patient. I wanted to talk to you about this because I have spent many days in doctor's offices, as have you probably. And when you're sitting there waiting for your doctor, do you ever observe other people who come in and out of the office? Well, I have, and I learned some things from other people. I'm a people watcher, so I tend to watch them, and sometimes I learn little lessons from them. I've seen the people that come in who are super friendly and happy, and they greet the people at the desk, and they are kind and pleasant, and they just seem to really light up the room. And then I've seen people come in really grumpy and angry, and they're insistent on having what they want right then and there when they want it, and they just fill the whole atmosphere with a lot of tension and stress. And so I want to ask you today, what kind of patient are you? Are you the one that comes in and lights up the room? Are you the one who's approachable and who works well with your physician? Or are you the one that comes in demanding to have certain things done the way that you want them? Now, I'm all for advocating for ourselves, and we have to do that when we're working with doctors, because if we don't communicate clearly and kind of push for what we need, we may not get it. And so that's okay. I understand that. But let's talk a little bit about some tips for how to be a great patient, because it has a lot more to do with your attitude or your personality. There's a lot more to it. And I've got some steps and some tips for you. So let's talk about that. So I know that when you're coming into a doctor's office, a lot of times, especially if you're coming in there because of Lyme disease, your pain is off the charts. Your mental clarity is probably impaired. You're just surviving every minute. And the last place you want to be is sitting in a doctor's office, right? I totally get that. I remember that for years. So despite that, I think that there are some things, some tips that will help make you a great patient, which in return will get you the care that you need from your doctor, because they're more willing to work with a patient who is cooperative and pleasant than they are with someone who's irritable and difficult, right? So the first thing that you want to think about is that you as a great patient need to understand what's happening to your body. So you need to be an active participant in that. And as a woman who wants to approach healthcare more naturally, I've spent a great deal of time researching and trying to understand how the body works, how my body works, and more importantly, how does it heal? So if you just want a pill and a quick fix, you might find yourself suffering needlessly from side effects and secondary health problems. Have you ever watched those commercials and there's like this huge long list of side effects, including death? So I choose not to just jump right in and grab a pill. I want to know, why is my body doing this and how can I get it better? So a great patient takes the time to learn and understand what the root cause of their weakened health is. And sometimes it's something other than Lyme. Why did your body so quickly and easily get sick with Lyme disease in the first place? Usually there's an underlying weakness or an underlying issue that caused that to happen. So sometimes we mistakenly believe that Lyme disease should be our primary focus when really it should be fixing a broken immune system, right? Next, you want to learn how to take ownership for your own healing. And that falls in with point number 1. Understanding what's happening with your body means you are taking ownership, right? You're learning about your body. If you're going to heal, you must want to heal. Remember that verse in the Bible where Jesus says to the man, "Do you want to get better?" Well, do you want to get better? And if you do, that's going to be reflected in how you take care of yourself. So you have to put forth the effort, and you need to take ownership of your health and your healing. And no one can do this for you. You can ask for help. You can hire help. You can hire the right doctors. But unless you're willing to do the work, it's not going to happen. So you have to understand that it's not fully up to your doctor to get you well. They only see you for a short time every 8 weeks. It's up to you. So you have to do the work, you have to do the research, you have to be compliant, and you have to follow the protocol that you're given. If you have issues with it, then you have to talk to your doctor, right? You need to have open communication. And that's one of my next points. Communicating with your doctor is important. And communicating in doctor language or doctorese doesn't mean that you know all the medical terms or every part of the anatomy. That's not your job. That's why they went to school, right? You don't need to know what every medication does, but you should follow up and find out and ask questions. And you need to learn to communicate in a way that kind of sets your emotions aside, because a lot of times doctors will look at someone who's emotional or upset, and you have every right to be when you're struggling with your health and you're in a lot of pain. But sometimes they'll think that there's more of an underlying emotional aspect to your issue than there really is. And I know, like as a mom, like sometimes you just hold everything inside and then you get in front of your doctor and you let it all out, right? So you want to be able to communicate more clearly and just kind of like in a matter of fact way with your doctor, and to be able to describe or explain your symptoms in a non-emotional way, okay? And I hate to say that, but I think that's a big issue with women. Sometimes when we go into the doctor, we don't communicate the facts because we like to talk a lot and use a lot of words and describe things, right? So they just want to know the facts. So when you go in and you learn how to communicate with just facts, maybe have it written down, you say things like, 2 years ago, I began having joint pain after a fever, and that fever lasted for a week. And now my joint pain has progressed to memory loss. And then I began having heart palpitations. And if you have dates, that's even better. So just being really to the point. And then my favorite way to communicate is by creating a medical notebook. And I've talked about this before, or some kind of a medical journal or a health timeline. It might list dates and your symptoms and the frequency of those symptoms. You might list medications and supplements that you've been taking, but something that's just very to the point without a lot of words to it, but just very specific. And it has the information that your doctor needs. And if they can look at that, sometimes they can use that to help diagnose you or to figure out what's going on with you. So if you want more information about how to create a medical notebook, check the show notes. I'll have some links down there for you. So another point is to build a health team. So in order to heal from a serious illness like Lyme disease or any other co-infections, you need to have a team. A lot of times I get emails asking about my doctor. And the thing is that once I discovered how important it is to have more than one doctor, I developed a team of practitioners who can help me with different aspects of my health. So at one point when I first got sick, I only went to a Lyme literate doctor, and I feel like I was missing so much. I was missing out on the nutritional aspect and maybe some herbs that I should have been taking or other therapies that I should have been getting. And so I didn't have a team, and I think that made my illness stretch out a little bit longer than it should have. But then I began to develop a team. I have family and friends who are supporting me, who are helping me. I have a primary care physician. I have a naturopathic physician. You can include a nutritionist, which I also use. Maybe have alternative care like acupuncture. A health coach is very beneficial, and an herbalist. And there's so many other types of practitioners that you can seek out. Now, I know these things cost money, and so you have to be very careful who you're seeing and just making sure that those practitioners are actually going to benefit you and to help you. But they can be very effective. Now, the doctor that I go to is an integrative doctor. It's just kind of like one step down from seeing a functional practitioner. But in the practice there, they've got lots of different types of physicians, and they have a nutritionist, and there's even an apothecary there. And so I feel like I have a lot at my fingertips, and my insurance covers it. So, just look around and ask people that ask on the community forums online and see what you can find, because sometimes you can find really great practitioners who take insurance. You can get well with just one really great doctor, but your chances are even greater when you surround yourself with a team. So I highly recommend that. So a great patient isn't afraid to ask questions or make suggestions. I firmly believe that a great patient should ask as many questions as possible. You should go in with a notebook, maybe spend some time researching before you do go to your doctor. Have a list of questions that you can ask them. And also, don't be afraid to make suggestions based on your research. Now, that doesn't mean that you're more educated than your doctor or that you know better, but at least you can say, Doc, I've been reading about this particular treatment or supplement. What do you think? And then be open and reasonable. And if you really feel strongly that you want to go in a certain direction, then be kind of firm with them. If you don't understand something or you disagree with what your doctor is recommending, make sure that you're open and honest and discussing your concerns. Now, a great patient has a positive attitude, and we talked about that in the beginning of the podcast, but they have a positive attitude and they treat their doctors and the staff in the office with respect. So there's nothing worse than a patient who comes in angry and demanding. And I've never worked in a doctor's office, but I sure have spent my fair share of hours in the waiting room, like I'm sure you have. And I've seen those who come in with a chip on their shoulders, and I've seen those who come in and light up the room with their smile and friendly conversation. And I've also observed those who are positive and respectful and how they get much better treatment than those who don't. So do the best you can to make your trip to the doctor as pleasant as possible. Now, I also want to just say that I have also experienced staff members who are just as irritable and angry, and they're not very pleasant to be around. But you would be surprised how a smile and a friendly conversation can change that person's attitude. They have a hard job because they're absorbing and taking care of people who are sick and who don't feel well. And sometimes when you don't feel well, you give people around you the worst of you. So they're taking this all day long, and sometimes they just need somebody to be nice to them. So think about that next time you go in. Next, a great patient is compliant with their protocol. So your doctor can't go home with you and make sure that you're taking the supplements or the medicine or the homeopathy the way you're supposed to. They can't make sure you're eating the right foods or that you're limiting toxins or a stressful lifestyle. So you have to be responsible for that. You have to be responsible for following the plan and doing it the best you can. If you're taking something and you have a negative reaction or an allergic reaction, you need to call your doctor immediately. and you need to learn what works for you. So paying very careful attention to your body and how you respond to things is super important, because you can't follow a protocol if it's not working for you, right? Don't wait for like a week or two and then finally call your doctor. Just give them a call right away and make sure that they can make adjustments to your protocol. But you do need to make sure you're as compliant as possible, because otherwise you're wasting time and you're wasting money. Okay, next, I talked about a little bit already, but a great patient keeps a medical notebook. Now, I've mentioned this before, but it's so important to keep medical information for yourself. Don't leave it up to your doctor to keep all of your records. Make sure that you have a copy of everything, and keep a notebook where you file your notes for each doctor's appointments. Make sure that you know what labs you've had, what protocols you need to follow. Maybe keep a food log or a symptoms chart in that notebook. But having this on hand is so beneficial for you, because when you need to review your medical history, or maybe you need to change doctors, you have all your information. You don't have to pay the doctor like $50 to get 10 papers. Maybe you want to just look back and see how far you've come. That's so beneficial to have that type of a notebook on hand. Now, you can have it in a physical notebook, or you can scan everything and have it online if you prefer that way. But just think of all the money and time you'll save if you have all of your records when you need them. Finally, a great patient isn't afraid to change doctors. I don't know about you, but when I was sick with Lyme, I had a lot of fear and anxiety. I had fear about changing doctors. I had fears about changing medications or taking a new herb. And so this can really get in our way of healing if we're too afraid to make the changes that are necessary. Sometimes it's necessary to fire your doctor. And don't forget, they work for you, even though they seem to be the ones who are in control. You're paying them. So if they're not willing to answer your questions, if they're not willing to take the time that's needed to figure out what's going on with you, maybe they have a horrible bedside manner, you need to feel comfortable with your doctor, and you also need to be able to trust them with your health. So if you can't do those things, then you need to find another doctor. Now, at the same time, you don't want to doctor hop just because you're not improving as fast as you think you should. Healing takes time. It takes persistence, and sometimes it takes a change of protocol. So as long as you feel your doctor is knowledgeable and helpful and willing to work with you, then you should give him or her the time to get to the root cause of your problems. So that's all I have for you today. I hope that this podcast encouraged you, and I pray that the God of hope will fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. That's in Romans 15:13. Before you go, be sure to subscribe to my podcast and share this episode with your friends and family. And I'll see you next time on Abounding in Hope Talks.